Это один из важнейших элементов системы противоракетной обороны России. Сегодня это единственный радар в мире, который способен на расстоянии 2000 километров в космосе обнаружить цель диаметром всего 5 сантиметров. Неудивительно, что РЛС «Дон» нередко называют «восьмым чудом света». Основная задача РЛС – обнаружить баллистические ракеты и произвести точное наведение на них противоракет. Минимизировать последствия ракетно-ядерного нападения и сохранить возможность для нанесения ответного удара. Именно в этом и состоит главное предназначение системы противоракетной обороны. Для того, чтобы сохранить стратегический баланс, в 1972 году США и Советский Союз подписали договор об ограничении систем противоракетной обороны. Договор запрещал развертывать системы противоракетной обороны морского, воздушного или космического базирования. Страны имели право разместить только по одному району средств ПРО. В них разрешалось иметь не более 100 противоракет для прикрытия наиболее важных стратегических объектов. Декабрь 2001 года США заявляют об одностороннем выходе из договора. Стало понятно, что Вашингтон просто перестал рассматривать Россию как геополитического соперника. Американцы видели, в каком состоянии находилась страна к началу 2000-х годов.
Но кому в голову приходилось, что Россия сможет наращивать стратегические вооружения? Наверное, думали о том, что пройдет некоторое время, имеющиеся, доставшиеся от Советского Союза вооружения будут деградировать.
Сентябрь 2013 года. РЛС дальнего обнаружения в Армавире зафиксировала пуски 2 баллистических ракет из акватории Средиземного моря. Потом выяснилось, что это новейшие ракеты совместного производства США и Израиля, которые проводили экспериментальные пуски. Однако Вашингтон и Тель-Авив отрицали сам факт пуска ракет. Признались, когда российские военные предоставили им все данные, траекторию и координаты.
Они предполагали, что мы не сможем на таком расстоянии с такой точностью отследить пуск этих ракет. И, конечно же, для них это было большим удивлением и неожиданностью, что мы засекли.
Это сделала новейшая радиолокационная станция «Воронеж», очередной шедевр российских разработчиков. РЛС вообще не похожа на военный объект, поэтому непосвященному трудно поверить в то, что перед ним лучше на сегодня радар дальнего обнаружения. Захватывает цель на расстоянии до 6000 километров.
Средствами центра обнаружена цель номер 683, тип 1, район старта, северо-восточная часть Тихого океана, район падения, центральный район. Время до падения 8 минут 45 секунд.
Сама станция способна выполнять задачи и работать как по аэродинамическим целям, так и по баллистическим целям. Это вот заключается в этом ее, можно сказать, уникальность.
С помощью таких РЛС впервые в отечественной истории в стране создано сплошное радиолокационное поле. Но никакой эйфории нет. За 15 лет после выхода из договора США потратили на противоракетную оборону 130 миллиардов долларов. И в ближайшие годы противоракет у американцев будет больше, чем боевых блоков на российских межконтинентальных баллистических ракетах. Кроме того, НАТО размещает системы ПРО как можно ближе к России. Расчет очевиден. Баллистическая ракета наиболее уязвима на этапе старта и набора высоты.
Точно, абсолютно. Выход из договора преследовал совершенно иные цели. И мы это хорошо понимаем. Мы все хорошо знаем, да, что главный вероятный противник, который рассчитывается у них, в их концепциях, в их стратегиях, это по-прежнему мы.
Для России это, безусловно, серьезный геополитический вызов, на который она готова ответить. Александр Минаков и Иван.
U.S. preparing for immediate military action against North Korea, Trump war chief says. Donald Trump's security advisor has said the U.S. is considering taking military action to deal with the nuclear threat of North Korea. H.R. McMaster, Trump's national security advisor, said military options are ready to be presented to the U.S. president in light of recent provocations. Speaking at a security conference in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, he derided the failed approach of diplomacy with the totalitarian state. He said, "The threat is much more immediate now, and so it's clear that we can't repeat the same failed approach of the past. The president has directed us to not do that and to prepare a range of options, including a military option, which nobody wants to take." He said to continue along the same path with Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un and expect different results would be lunacy. He added, What we have to do is prepare all options because the president has made clear to us that he will not accept a nuclear power in North Korea and a threat that can target the United States and target the American population. Denuclearization of the peninsula is the only appropriate and acceptable solution. 2 U.S. military officials told CNN military options are ready to be offered to Trump if North Korea continues testing nuclear weapons. McMaster made the comments one day ahead of Trump's meeting with South Korean President Moon Jae-in in Washington. He said the visit could pave the way for a new approach to the North Korea crisis. He said, "There's recognition that there has to be more pressure on the regime. I think what you'll see in coming days and weeks are efforts to do that." In response, North Korean UN Deputy Ambassador Kim In-ryong said the communist nation will not back down in the face of threats. Speaking at a UN summit, he said Pyongyang will continue to build up nuclear forces to defend the sovereignty of the country. The war of words comes after North Korea publicly gave an order for the South Korean president to be killed over an alleged plot to assassinate Kim Jong-un. U.S. now in range of North Korea's missiles as Kim Jong-un prepares for war. North Korea's latest missile launch could have hit part of the U.S. had it been launched a narrower angle. A rocket launched by North Korea soared to 5 times higher than the International Space Station. Kim Jong-un watched the Hwasong rocket splash down just 490 miles from its launch site, but the missile soared to a height of 1,311 miles into space. But had it been launched at a narrower angle, it could have flown nearly 3,000 miles. Global Security Program CO Director David Wright has stated this would put it just short of mainland America, but puts part of Alaska at high risk. As Kim Jong-un has accelerated his missile program and developed more mobile rockets with longer ranges, he has launched them ever higher. The Hermit Kingdom is not unusual in sending rockets to high altitudes to test their range, but does so more than other countries because it is surrounded by other states, he said. Non-Proliferation Review editor Joshua Pollack said, "To avoid firing long-range missiles into or over Japan, the North Koreans have been launching them nearly straight up instead. They fly much higher into space that way, but come back down relatively close to their launching points." The despot nation has test-fired missiles at lofted trajectories in the past, but none as high as the Hwasong 12. North Korea has been conducting missile tests at an unprecedented pace under Kim Jong-un, who has tested about 80 rockets. NASA has previously expressed concerns that North Korea risks disrupting the atmosphere above the Earth or even destroying an important satellite with one of their nukes.
A 10-year war of attrition. That is how long most high-ranking U.S. Army officials estimated it would take to liberate Mosul from Daesh terrorists. 3 years after the terror group first declared its caliphate in the Grand Al-Nuri Mosque of Mosul, the mosque has been liberated, and the city is on the verge of complete liberation. The Iraqi public distrusts the U.S. claim of wanting to fight Daesh, and certainly its coalition successes have been marginal in comparison to the successes of Russia, Iran, Syria, and Iraq in defeating Daesh. In this edition of the debate with me, Waqar Rizvi, we discuss the coming defeat of Daesh in Mosul, its impact, and root causes of the terror group's rise. Let's discuss all this a bit further. We're now joined by Altaf Ahmed, Press TV's correspondent, who is joining us live now from Mosul itself. Altaf, what is the latest there?
Well, Iraqi forces have scored a monumental win today by liberating the famous Al-Nuri Mosque in the district of Al-Faruq in the heart of Old Mosul, or in what is known as Old Mosul City. By liberating Al-Nuri Mosque, the mosque where Daesh leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi as-Samarra'i had declared the rise of a so-called caliphate between Iraq and Syria, and proclaiming himself as so-called caliph for this so-called state. this marked the fall of the myth of the caliphate once and for all. Also, it was considered to be a psychological and military spine-breaking blow to Daesh terrorists who are still, or the remaining militants who are still on the inside in the city of Mosul. At the same time, Iraqi forces have liberated the region of As-Sajjahana, a commercial hub or commercial market in the old Mosul city. This advance comes just a day after the Iraqi forces had announced the full liberation of Al-Faruq district as well as Al-Mashahida, Hadrat al-Sada and Al-Ahmadiyya districts, all in old Mosul city. At the same time, as the Iraqi forces continue to push to liberate territory which is present in old Mosul city, Iraqi forces also are still continuing their liberation process of districts which are present northwest of the city of Mosul, namely the district of Al-Shifa, the villages today in Al-Shifa district, which lies northwest of the city of Mosul, in the last remaining enclave next to the city of Mosul. All these advances are considered to be the latest advances and the last or the latest nails hammered into the coffin of Daesh in Iraq as they continue to foothold in its last urban stronghold in the country.
Okay, Altaf, as always, we appreciate your reporting for us. That was Altaf Ahmed speaking to us live from the Iraqi city of Mosul. Our guests for this debate are journalist at Al-Masdar News, Mr. Brad Blankenship, who is joining us live from Cincinnati, and we're also joined by columnist at The Hill, Mr. Brad Badowski, who is joining us live from Washington. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Mr. Badowski, I'll start with you. How important do you think the liberation of the Nouri Mosque, considering where Daesh first declared its caliphate?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. I think it's historic, along with what will be the liberation of Mosul, the liberation of Raqqa, and the liberation of the whole region from the mass murdering terrorists who are on the way out. They're about to die in large numbers and scatter in large numbers. And I think it's a major and important moment for everybody involved.
And Brad, what are your thoughts as the Nouri Mosque has been liberated and the Iraqi Prime Minister says, that Daesh is pretty much now defeated?
I definitely would agree with that. Mosul is very strategic. It is Iraq's second largest city, and it definitely will be conquered by the Iraqi army as well as the coalition in the coming weeks. I expect it to be actually quicker than that. I definitely would disagree, though, that this would be a total victory. I think that a lot of the forces will definitely retreat to Deir ez-Zor as well as Raqqa, and it will embolden ISIS's position in Syria. So I think the U.S. will definitely be wary of attacking ISIL as they flee into Syria, because their policy at this point, and as you read the people, the policy papers and the positions of several people that are leading this charge, they are actually, in fact, telling us and telling the government that they should, quote, make Syria, Russia, Iran, Hezbollah pay, to vanquish ISIS in Syria.
Okay, so Mr. Badowski, I'm glad Brad brought up, Syria, because I wanted to ask you then, what impact do you think this win, or even full liberation in Iraq, really, against Daesh will mean for Syria?
Well, first of all, I don't agree with the last categorization of the American position, but I'm not going to waste time getting into a propaganda debate, which is beneath what the audience should be listening to. I think it's critical for Syria. I think it's critical for Iraq. I think it's critical for the region. I do agree that this is not the total victory. What it is the end of the concept of an Islamic terrorist state. We'll call it whatever one wants to. That is ending now and will soon be over. There will be terrorists that will escape, retreat, and find new ways to kill people, but they're not nearly the threat that they were 2 or 3 years ago. In Syria, there's going to be continued discussion about what should be done. There'll be differences and hopefully some areas of agreement between the United States and other countries. There'll be discussion between the United States and Russia, hopefully constructive about what to do. And the most important thing, once the killing actually stops, at least most of it, is all these countries are going to have to be part of rebuilding all these countries in the region. The United States, Russia, Europe, and the others will have to do humanitarian work, economic assistance, human rights protection, and making life better for people in the war-torn regions right now, including all of these countries from Iraq to Syria.
Okay, so Brad, let's jump into the deep end if we can, Brad. Let's talk about the U.S. role here then. What do you think the U.S. role has been in this fight against Daesh?
Well, first I want to say, address the point that the other guest made and say that, the idea of an Islamic State never was feasible to begin with. I do not believe that ISIS was a state to begin with. Certainly it was not recognized by anybody, and their strength has been artificially propped up. I think that, there were many actors involved which propped it up from the outside. I don't think ISIS has been self-sustaining, so I would disagree on that end. The U.S. role has been definitely conditional, and you'll see, again, people, New York Times columnists like Thomas L. Friedman say, that we need to have conditions when we vanquish ISIS in Syria. In Iraq, these conditions have largely been met. In the last Iraq war, we saw flooding of multinational corporations into Iraq, the largest private oil companies. So in Iraq, the United States government it is feasible for them to destroy ISIS because they have, in a sense, what they want. Now, they are setting up permanent bases, especially in the Kurdish regions of Iraq, to have a say in what happens after the fall of ISIS. And what they want to do is to, in their own words, draw Iraq farther away from Iran. Now, as far as these multinational corporations, they're deeply entrenched in Iraq, and in fact, engaging in illegal oil trade and entitlements in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. In fact, the Ministry of Oil in Iraq has disagreed with a lot of what Peshmerga is doing and the Kurdistan in Iraq, the deals that they're doing with multinational corporations, including notably DNO International. DNO International, according to the Yemeni Labor Court and the Court of Appeals, is a criminal oil organization who refuses to pay its workers in Yemen and has used its bargaining power, now having entitlements in Iraq, to slowly phase out, the operations in Yemen, didn't pay workers, and is now deeply entrenching itself in Iraq through the Kurdistan region. So this is the difference between Syria and Iraq, okay? In Syria, they have no claim to the resources and the territory that they want in Syria, and so this is the difference. And neoliberals, including Thomas L. Friedman, that's kind of what they look like. That's what they're looking at when they look at this.
Okay, so Mr. Badowski, I will give you a chance to respond to what Brad there just said, but I want to add this on to Mr. Badowski because, it was interesting that in 2015, General Ray Odierno, he made a statement, and he was, of course, a then U.S. Army Chief of Staff, and he said that it would take at least 10 to 20 years to A, liberate Mosul, and B, get rid of Daesh. And other, in fact, Army officials, U.S. Army officials said pretty much they echoed what he said, saying it would take 10 to 20 years, that the Iraqis would not be able to liberate Mosul, that there would be a 10-year, at least, war of attrition. We're 3 years down the line from when Daesh declared its caliphate in the Nuri Mosque, and Mosul is on the very brink of liberation, and there are 2 more cities left in Iraq after this. Where did these generals, where did the U.S. Army get their calculations so wrong?
Well, a lot of people have been wrong about it. I wasn't. I said not only Mosul, but that Raqqa and the whole hardcore of what was called the Islamic State could be defeated in a matter of a couple of years. That was the number that I always used if what was done was right. I think you had, from the American point of view, we had been in war really since 9/11, going into Afghanistan. Then we went into Iraq for the original Iraq war under Bush 43, which I did not support. I opposed that. But I think a lot of people are tired, and they just got very wary. I never believed it would be 10 years. I always said it would be more like 2. And I said that about 2 years ago. I think that number is being proven more right. What is important right now going forward, okay, it is a valid point about the oil, and to the degree that there's oil in Iraq or anywhere near, that should be used, the revenue from it, to improve the life of all of the people. There will have to be very serious and difficult negotiations between all the parties involved as to how you manage, produce, sell, and prosper from the oil. There has to be a solution for the Kurds that satisfies the Kurds and satisfies everybody else in the region. And obviously there will have to be some form of government in Syria. There is a broad-based coalition government that will represent all of the different people and all of the different factions except for the hardcore terrorists. So these are not easy issues. And the fact that what was called the ISIS state, the idea of a terrorist organized entity acting like a state, that is about to be dead once and for all and forever. The terrorist problem will not be dead. It will continue as they disperse. And we'll have to come up with ways, and it'll take all the countries involved to act well for this to happen, to make life better for the people and to use the resources in a way that helps the people and to create governments that people believe all the different points of view are fairly represented in those governments.
Okay, so Brad, I wanted to ask you as well, Brad, about General Ray Odierno's statement, because, he is no ordinary man, obviously. He was the then U.S. Army Chief of Staff. He obviously had some information in his hands where he made this calculation from 10 to 20 years is what he said it would take to defeat Daesh. I wanted to then combine that with the fact that we have polls within Iraq where Iraqis themselves say that they do not trust the United States. The vast majority, in fact, of Iraqis distrust the U.S. role in the fight against Daesh. That was very plain, clear poll, which was very anti-America, actually, in its results. What do you make of that?
It is completely justified to question the United States role in Iraq. You see what they did in Iraq. People have not forgotten the unilateral invasion of Iraq by the United States. This has not been erased from public consciousness. People do not look at the United States as a benevolent force now just because they're teaming up with their army. Now, what they are doing in Iraq is very similar to what they have said they will do in Syria, which is namely to fight ISIS. And then, when they have control of regions that ISIS used to have, they will use this as a way to partition Syria. And then in Iraq, what they are going to attempt to do is to use their leverage in owning territory in Iraq to draw Iraq farther away from Iran. They see Iran as a primary threat, not only in Iraq, but also Syria. So this is really their ultimate game. And this is fundamentally undemocratic. If Iraq wants to have relations with Iran, they see them as somebody who has a mutual interest in the region. That should be left up to the Iraqi people. And so too with Syria. If that is how they feel, then that's perfectly okay for them. But the U.S. has different plans, and they don't want Iraq to join forces with Iran and join, the axis of resistance against Zionism and against U.S. hegemony. So this is definitely, I think, very, people are very aware of this in Iraq, especially the soldiers. At many points, Iraqi military officials said that they didn't want the U.S. to intervene. It kind of shows in the military campaign. The United States had reckless, promiscuous use of phosphorus bombs and other bombs indiscriminately, killing civilians, and at times killing hundreds of civilians at the same time. Now, as far as what's happened in Mosul now, they have, toned this down because it's been largely led by the Iraqi forces. They have dropped leaflets telling civilians to flee. But as far as the operation before, it's been heartless, indiscriminate, cold, a total military operation that does not care about Iraqi citizens. And they definitely know this and they feel this.
Okay, so Mr. Badowski, I saw you reacting to what Brother was saying, but I will give you a chance to respond, of course. But I wanted to add this on, that is something legitimately to be concerned about, isn't it? Because if the Iraqi people view the Americans with distrust, view the American role in what America says it is fighting against Daesh, it wants to get rid of Daesh in, be it Iraq or Syria. But if the Iraqi people overwhelmingly do not trust the United States, that's an issue, isn't it?
Well, there are a lot of people that the Iraqi people don't trust, and some of them are Americans and some of them are others. The more important point is, what does the United States do? What does Russia do? What does Iran do? What do the leaders in Iraq and Syria do? Once the immediate and ugly threat of ISIS is down, and that's about where we're going to be very soon. Are they wise? Are they generous? Do they help the people of Iraq, the people of Syria, the Kurds and others? That's going to be how everyone, including the United States, will be judged. I'll be advocating what I think is the right thing, that we should be generous and we should work with the people in those countries, and we should work to create governments that or support governments that do have the broad support of the people. What we don't want, what no one wants that's sane, is any more of this endless sectarian warfare. I think a lot of good and normal people are fed up with the Shia killing the Sunnis and the Sunnis killing the Shia, and the oil companies making money, and the ideologues on the right making political hay, and endless poverty and misery and hunger. These are regions that could be prosperous, all of them. And these are all people that deserve a better life and a better system and a government where everybody feels that the government to some degree speaks for them and not just for somebody else. The sectarian killing has to end. The sectarian politics has to end. And the life of the people has to get better. And the United States and everybody else will be judged in Iraq and in all other countries in the region by what the countries do, what the United States does, what Russia does, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a role for everybody to be constructive. And the people down there will judge how everybody acts. And we'll see where the polls are in a year and in 2 years. And more important, we'll see the kind of governments that we have, whether they are representative and bring people in or sectarian, and we'll see whether the people's lives actually get better, which is what I, for one, hope and pray, because they deserve it after all they've been through.
Okay, so Brad, do you think that the United States, in a sense, still thinks that it gets to call the shots in places like Iraq? Because, you know, it's interesting, as you said as well, in Mosul, it was Iraqi forces that were leading this fight, that have led this fight successfully against Daesh. It's also been the popular mobilization units, the volunteer forces, which have helped, of course, the Iraqi forces on the outskirts of Mosul, not within the city. But all of the above has been criticized by Western media, by Western governments even, for being sectarian, etc. But then on the other hand, we've seen them themselves ensuring that they safeguard civilians of all sects, of all walks of life, be they even Christian, in fact, not even Muslim. So I'm wondering, do you think the United States sort of thinks that it is the boss here, but it really isn't?
Well, first I want to address the claim by the other guest and say, you know, the sectarian violence is completely artificial. You know, in Syria, in Iraq, Yemen, the West Bank, Gaza, many places, you know, there is animating forces. Okay, where, you know, religion can be an animating force, but for the most part, it's completely artificial. You see, because, you know, I have a hard time believing that Syrians turned Islamist overnight. I have a hard time believing that, you know, Bashar al-Assad as a Alawite president cannot represent other people. I mean, we just had the first black president in America, and you're not going to hear anybody say, okay, well, unless it's a fringe, you know, racist, you're not going to hear them say, yeah, Barack Obama cannot be president because he's black, okay? And this is a fundamentally Orientalist point of view to say that, you know, people of different sects cannot occupy government unless they represent the majority of the people. You know, if we had a Muslim as president in the United States, or a Jew, I would not complain as long as I know that they're fit for duty. And I think if you look at the voter turnout and how people voted in the last Syrian election, people are very satisfied with Bashar al-Assad and what he is doing. And that's the case for other places, okay? There are many you know, militaries and paramilitaries in Iraq that are leading the fight against ISIS, you know, using the call of Shia Islam. But that is not to say that they don't defend minorities, they do not defend Sunnis, okay? These groups, perhaps religion is a call to action for them, and that is perfectly okay. And that is the same way for many groups. There has to be some type of ideological, you know, founding for people to want to fight, okay? And whatever that is, that's okay if it is done justly. In the United States, while we have a secular government, we are definitely interested. You know, we have an interest in this because of oil, because of natural resources. In Syria, because of the pipeline that was, you know, supposed to be going through Iran, Iraq, and then through Syria to Europe. Okay, so you know, the U.S. has an interest in this. They have a stake in this. People know it. They don't hide it. The ideology of the United States is one of predatory capitalist invasion of markets. People understand this. This is a fundamentally alien principle to people in many other cultures, and they don't understand and they don't like it.
Okay, we're quickly running out of time, so I want to get both your final comments. And Mr. Godowski, I wanted to push you, in fact, on the point of sectarianism, because isn't, in fact, Mosul a picture of a positive trajectory when we talk about sectarianism and unity amongst Iraqis? Because There were 8 Iraqi forces leading that fight, PMUs on the outskirts, but civilians were always the priority. That's why it took this long. In fact, the Iraqi forces said they could have liberated Mosul a lot easier had they just blanket bombed the entire city, but they took the time out to fight alley to alley, house to house, so that civilians, be they of any walk of life, be they Sunni, Shia, Christian, whoever, were safeguarded. Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, what is happening in many ways is also good. There is a backlash against the sectarian killing. There is a backlash against a bitter, divisive politics in which everybody ends up losing or dead. You have a problem on sectarian killing that is, in my opinion, dangerous, serious, and wrong. Look at what's happening between Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Iran. We don't have time, but that's one issue. You bet it's sectarian. You also have people who are good people of different faiths who want to work together and want to have a better life. And it's the mission of good people in different countries to help those good people in those countries to make their life better. And there are a lot of people down there from all points of view who want that as much as I'm saying right now.
Okay, Brad, I'll give you the final minute then. You go ahead as well. Tell me about your thoughts about the fact that we are on a positive trajectory about unity amongst Iraqis, as we've seen in this Mosul fight.
You know, Iraq, as well as Syria and many other places where it has been secular before in their past, Syria continues to be. And when you talk about Sunni Shia, there is no talk of this in Syria or Iraq. People do not look at this. This is a farce. You know, the other guests mentioned Saudi Arabia and Iran, you know, as a sectarian conflict. It's not a sectarian conflict. This is broadly speaking an economic battle. And that's how the war in Syria started. That's why the war in Iraq started. This has to do with material gain. That is why the United States is there. That's why they're involved. There is no case where a country has ever intervened in another country on humanitarian grounds. It has always been for material benefit every time. And there is no case of history where that has not been the case.
Okay, we'll leave it at that, gentlemen. But of course,
Marshall plan, the Marshall size Washington's claims that Syria's government's planning a chemical attack in the country. The ministry is concerned that terrorists could instead take advantage of the threats coming from Washington and carry out false flag attacks to encourage U.S. military action. RT's Caleb Mopin went to the U.S. State Department to get their response to that.
The U.S. officials refused to confirm the claims with any facts. The situation looks like a massive provocation, both military and informational.
I look at the U.S. experts, and they say openly that extremists could use these claims by Washington, make provocations, and shift blame onto the Syrian government.
Recent statement from the White House alleging that the Syrian government was planning an upcoming chemical attack. Are you concerned that that could have created an opening for terrorist groups to carry out a chemical attack?
No.
You're not concerned, even though al-Nusra, al-Qaeda groups have been using chemical weapons in Syria? That's documented?
No. Next question on Syria.
It seems that Washington doesn't share the concerns of Russia's foreign minister. Now, on numerous occasions, the Syrian government has been accused of carrying out chemical weapons attacks. The most recent example was in April in Idlib province. Without any investigation, the United States launched 59 cruise missiles against Syria, targeting an airbase. Now, when they were pressed for facts, the State Department responded this way.
Do you guys have any evidence to share with us about this potential preparation for the use of chemical weapons? Because that wasn't actually laid out.
Right, and nor would that be laid out, because that would be considered an intelligence matter.
When you guys believe that it's in your interests, you do put out what you say is evidence or proof of things that involve intelligence.
I'm not going to get into that one with you, but this is a very serious and grave matter.
Let's remember that back in 2013, an agreement was arranged by Russia in which the Syrian government turned over their chemical weapons to the OPCW. International bodies oversaw the process in which the chemical weapons were handed over to international authorities. However, these facts don't seem to matter. The United States continues to blame Syria for chemical attacks, regardless of having any actual proof or evidence.
Caleb Mopin there. Syria commentator Danny Mackey also believes Washington's accusations risk encouraging rebels to launch attacks they can then blame on the government.
United States of America is looking for some sort of provocation in Syria and is actually putting pretexts for some sort of possible intervention. And if history is anything to go by, then Trump definitely does not have any qualms in actually attacking Syria militarily on the ground, as we've seen. So Moscow's assessment is pretty much spot on. Trump does seem like he wants to do some sort of intervention and is looking for a reason to do so. I mean, what people need to comprehend is that we're at a stage in the war now where the Assad government is almost eyeing up a victory towards the end. And this wasn't the case a few years ago. So the Assad government would have no reason, logical or rational or military reason, to actually use these weapons at this moment in time. Whereas the rebels have every single reason to provoke such an attack and to possibly use these weapons themselves and see the reaction that they want from the United States and their allies internationally.